Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to Raising Excellence, your most valuable hour of your day. I'm Michael, the MC and CC of today's adventure, and today's show is Tricked into Lying to Yourself, continuing on our own Tim Flynn's foundations of self-discovery. Be aware it's Thursday, and this is the conclusion of this week's topic. And with me today are four of my other fellow hosts, Agnieszka, our psychosomatic illuminator,
Hello, everybody. Nice to be here.
and Willow, our trauma consultant,
Hi, everyone.
Deirdre, our development strategist,
Hello.
and Dennis, our freedom facilitator.
Hi there, warm greetings from cold Germany.
And if you are viewing live and have questions or comments, please feel free to throw them in the comments section, and we will try and answer them as we go.
Speaking of our viewers, I was going to mention my nephew's birthday is today. He's turning 12, and he told me he was going to subscribe to our channel so he can watch his aunt on YouTube. He thinks it's cool that we're YouTubers.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Jackson.
Happy birthday, Jackson.
Happy birthday. Wow.
Happy birthday, Jackson.
All right, so today is the conclusion of our topic. And right off the bat, tricked into lying to ourselves. Does anybody want to try and tackle that right off the top, or do you want to just go into any particular thing that we've covered this week that you feel is important?
I think it's more like we trick ourselves into lying to ourselves.
So you mean we are lying about ourselves in terms of we're denying that we have baggage, or is it more like a lack of awareness that we have it?
I was thinking that the other day when you were saying, I just pack it all up and I leave it there and I walk away. I'm like, yeah, okay. You walk away. But
I think it's like we're like mountain climbers with all kinds of stuff on, and we're going, no, I'm at the beach. No, I'm fine.
Yeah, and we get so accustomed to walking and running around with it and climbing mountains and even going to the beach with all this baggage that we actually end up forgetting that we're walking around with it, right? And then it takes an experience of being light and of actually dropping the baggage, and sometimes those may even be traumatic experiences, to actually realize that, wow, that was really heavy, that was really uncomfortable. But it takes some special marking moments in life to realize how heavy loaded we're actually walking around with, isn't it?
Yeah, I caught myself in lying to myself just last week. I was trying to justify procrastination by saying I deserve to slack off. I deserve to do whatever I wasn't supposed to be doing, instead of doing something that would be financially rewarding. But what I was actually lying to myself, because I have specific goals that I want to achieve, and they require a certain level of finances. And if I don't care for my finances, I will not achieve my goals. So I actually deserve to achieve my goals. I don't deserve to sit around and do whatever unproductive stuff. What I deserve is to focus my energy and intention and really reach for what I want to achieve in life, or this month, or this year, like visiting my friends.
That reminds me of like using short-term or things that are long-term unhealthy for a short-term comfort. I think that comes into play a lot. Like, whether I know a lot of clients who they're like, am I really lazy, or do I need a day off? And how do I tell the difference? Because a lot of them will not take that day off just because they think that that's lazy and taking care of you. So vice versa, if you think that you're going to take care of yourself by staying home from work and playing video games and eating crap food and not actually taking care of your body, you're going to feel better for that day because you didn't have to go do the thing that you didn't want to do. But tomorrow you're going to have to face that, versus if you had actually maybe gone home and ate some good food and maybe watched a documentary on something that you're dealing with, or research something that you're dealing with and trying to work, because that's also uncomfortable.
In other ways, we have to first become aware that we're walking around with baggage, and then we have to make a conscious action, because just becoming aware of the fact itself but not acting upon it is not going to really move us anywhere, right? So we have to determine what kind of action steps really need are going to put us forward, are going to make us progress, and are going to enable us to drop that luggage that we're walking around with.
Yeah, I think, the one of the things is how many people realize their full potential. I think it's very few. And it's unfortunate because that's all kind of hidden behind their baggage.
What
And
if I
True.
don't want to realize my potential? What if I want to be a loser for the
well,
rest of my
but
life?
but that is just it. It's like your ability, your willpower to actually be the person that you really could be and really want to be, and could really be fulfilling and energizing, you know, bring you a lot of happiness. That
Mm.
is the person that's within you, but because of all these other things that are basically obscuring that, no one really sees that, and they end up, playing video games or eating, junk food, or watching, Netflix series till 4 a.m. in the morning
Excessively.
and stuff like that. Yeah, so all these
Yeah,
kind of
that
things are obscuring really their own potential. Go ahead.
yeah. It taking away that like once it gets excessive, it's like eating cake. If you eat cake every day, it's gonna make you sick. It's not it's not nutritious to eat cake every day.
As
And
coaches, sorry.
to I'll quickly finish, and just
Mhm.
to kind of look in at yourself in critically, is it takes a lot of strength. You need like a good kind of um, bit of confidence in yourself to kind of look at yourself in a way where you're not going to harm, like be too critical and self-destructive way, but to be objective about that takes a lot of strength. It's hard to kind of look at yourself in the mirror that way, and to
Right.
kind of really look at your baggage.
I
Continue,
just
Right.
Dennis.
Mhm. So you have to want to drop the baggage too, right? So like you cannot help somebody to drop his or her like baggage if they don't really make that decision, if they're not determined to really make a difference. And just like you said, if you're quite comfortable with it, and I would say, like, as coaches, even that's something we all like, speaking for myself, I encountered all the while that there are people who are just not, they're comfortable where they are. They don't really want to look further. They don't want to tap into the true potential, and it undeniably is there. But the person has to want to drop the baggage and has to want to progress and to develop. But if they don't have that basic drive,
Mm,
then we really can only do so much.
mm, that's right.
Willow, you were going to say
Yeah.
something?
Oh, I was, but it was already clearly summarized, so I just feel really redundant. Uh, I'll just
All
move
right.
on to no, it's great. I'm glad when other people say the words that I'm trying to say. That's awesome to me, actually. Um, Less for me to have to say. I'll just move on to my next one. This is kind of ties into like a solution. Um, but it's a coping mechanism that brings short-term comfort and trauma bonding. And this is the way it was described, long-term draining. And I call it, the body keeps the score, was if you're a bartender and you see these two guys come in and they're like, oh yeah, do you like this? And they're like, no, I don't like that. Or they're just trying to find some common ground, and all of a sudden they go, oh, I hate the Giants. You hate the Giants? We both hate the Giants. And they both commiserate on that, you know, mutual, we both hate this thing. And in reality, like, I bet they both have children. If they both have children, I bet they have wonderful memories that they'd love to bond over that. But instead, they bond over something that they're mutually feeling. And it kind of feeds this mentality of negativity. So while it is very important to find friends, people who understand what you're going through, also really important to know when to use that and when not to. Like, I notice at parties, I will hook up with like my one friend that knows what I'm going through, and we'll sit there and we'll just zone out together. And I'm like, we probably really shouldn't be doing this the entire time. We should be social.
Very good point.
Yeah, it's really also for me it is to focus on when those moments in life when I really felt light, when I felt that I didn't have any baggage and luggage, and some of that, we went through, journaling about childhood memories, and there are some marking moments in my life that I kind of anchored and that I go back to if I feel, burdened and if I feel heavy, and so I really try to focus on, what does it look like, how do I talk, how do I walk, how do I act, like what will I do, how do I feel when I feel free, when I feel relief, when I feel alleviated, and and I think that is like a very personal thing, but it's pretty easy to do, if you sit down and you figure out a few actions that you could take like right away, a few thoughts that you could put into your mind, a few places that you could go, music that you could listen to, that really helps you to come into that state and to feel what it means when you feel light, when you feel alleviated.
But
That's
how do
just
you
one of
get
the.
to that state
Well,
if hang
I
on,
was gonna
hang on.
comment on that.
Okay, fine. What had the
I was
question?
Well, maybe this will answer, and it'll be really, really short. I love that you brought up the visceral feelings. You feel light, you feel heavy, you feel grounded, anchored. Those three different feelings, a lot of people don't realize that is a sign of like being in tune with your body.
What I was going to ask is how do you feel light? Like, say, okay, so when you were in Brazil practicing capoeira, you felt light and you felt happy. But how do you reconcile that with two screaming children, a wife who's working full time, and you having all these burdens of household? Like, how can you still feel the freedom of, like, wouldn't that make you yearn for Brazil instead of feeling happy where you're at?
Do you want the shortcut or you want like the long process? because because
Oh,
like even both.
The Reader's Digest version.
Yeah. So, so well, the prolonged one, the different techniques and things, like the one I mentioned the first was like, okay, maybe there's a moment where I'm overwhelmed with children and nagging and whatever, and household and dishes and the whole bunch and kabul and the whole long list, and then just like I mentioned, there could be like a list hanging somewhere with things, with thoughts, with emotions, like basically the whole holistic thing would be covered with what kind of action could I do like right away, like a simple action that brings me out of already the emotion of the moment. What kind of memory could I focus on? um, you know Even if it's just going outside for 5 minutes, even whatever, like small actions that I could do right away that help me to make a shift in the moment. But those are like that's like really the long and the things that determine that demand kind of action. But really and truly, like the shortcut of it would really be to just to center in my real self and to ask myself, who is really carrying luggage right here? Who is the one that's carrying luggage? Is that my real me? Is that my true self? Or is that something that's not really my true self? And that's something that really, it doesn't determine any action. It doesn't determine any outside I have to go somewhere. It doesn't determine another person, because that's also a different strategy, right? To find somebody, to identify somebody who can and who is willing to help you carry your luggage, or who can point you to somebody or to some place where you can drop off your luggage, somebody else will take care of it. But like the real shortcut is there to, in every moment of your life, just to center in your true self and to realize, the one that I think is carrying luggage and that I think is burdened down by whatever it is, that's not my true self. So you kind of,
Mm.
you in a way disassociate from the one who is feeling the pain and the suffering. And it's not an easy thing. Like, I don't say it lighthearted. I'm not pretending that I managed to do that in every moment of my life, but that's certainly like a goal that I think it's worthwhile achieving, to center yourself in your true self and to just realize, okay, I'm feeling pain, I'm feeling cold, I'm feeling hot, I'm feeling stressed out. But again, that's not really my true self. The one who is feeling really is beyond all of that. So what can I do right now to center there? And yeah, and like where is that part of me that that never had any luggage, that never will have any luggage, that never will feel strained or burdened or stressed out. Let me find that part and let me look for that. And that's like that's a motivation for me, that moment of, wow, I know there's something because I felt it before. I know there's somewhere in there like that this vast thing that doesn't feel any pain, that's beyond all of that.
That reminds me of the technique in IFS where you ask the part that is overwhelming you to take a step back, stay in the room, let me be present with you and witness you, all your pain, all your suffering, your joy, everything. But you can't be blended with me because when you are me, I feel everything that you're feeling. So I need you to take a step back. So it is kind of like I hesitate to say disassociative, but it is a distancing practice that gives you the space to observe your memories and observe these actions that really unsettle you.
Yeah, it's not to deny,
See,
right? It's not to deny that they're there,
I
but
call
it's
it something
Yeah.
different.
What do you call
See,
it?
I call it something like a transcending, going beyond oneself.
Okay.
Excuse me, somebody's at my front door. Sorry.
No
I
problem.
think that's a great way of phrasing it, like going beyond yourself and maybe realizing that, what if that self, maybe if you are the one who is carrying the luggage, if you are the one who is beyond the luggage, and if you're the luggage itself as well, what, just as a
Yeah.
possibility, if you're all of that at the same time, maybe one of the conclusions that you could draw from that is, like, let's take it easy. Maybe we're not meant to take it all that seriously. Like, if you have, that's a perspective that allows me to, find back joy and find back like a easy view at that. And again, I don't think it's lighter because there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of torture, death, killing, war going on. But again, it's not to deny that this is going on, but it's to feel it, to accept it as it is, but it's also to retain that possibility of having a view, an all encompassing view, so to say.
Because a lot of times we end up actually disassociating or pushing these parts to the back is literally the cause is unbearable feelings. Like, you're not meant to bear it. You're not meant to just deal with it alone. So if you don't have a support group, you're gonna learn how to deal with it on yourself, and that's not really dealing.
Is that even that's not even healthy? Like, is that like how like we're supposed to act, or do we grow up kind of learning how to share our feelings? Oh, what's going on? I scraped my knee. I really was trying to ride my bike, and I scraped my knee, and now it's bleeding, and I feel really sad, and I feel really angry because I can't learn how to ride a bike, and everyone else can. And that's like, I don't know when it got to a point where that's not okay anymore.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
it's
correct me if I'm wrong, but in the book, the body keeps the score. He points out that I think the number one determinant as far as mental problems and all the associated problems that come from that is really the social the social support system that people have. People that don't have a social support system are that's like the number one candidate for problems in all different sorts of areas.
And
That
it's
is
not
correct.
enough. It's not enough to just have a family. They need to be actually supportive, to be social support.
Yes.
Even further down than that is the 2-year period from birth to 2 years old, the interaction with their mother, the attunement that goes on, it basically teaches them how to read people and understand who is safe and who is not. And because if you don't know where you're safe, I mean, that is the base for the hierarchy of needs. You need to have a place that's safe, and then you need to have food and water.
Have you ever noticed
Yeah.
how the hierarchy of needs matches the chakra system?
Yes.
Isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I was thinking about earlier, you guys, when we were talking about potential, is it really depends on the definition of each word. Like, from one perspective, potential could be this word that's so big and far, far away, somewhere at the end of the road when I'm 82, and that's when I'm going to reach my potential. So it's so out of the possibilities or realm that I couldn't possibly even reach it. And then, on the other hand, my potential is something I deserve to live up to for me. And essentially, my potential is to be the way I want to be. Like, isn't that my potential? To be the way I want to be? So why do we distance ourselves from being the way you already are and then cause this kind of separation from who you really are?
Yeah, to not be able to recognize that in yourself in this very moment, that's really a fallacy, I guess you could say, or that's a deception, which is oftentimes being used to manipulate us. Right? That is the shortcut. Even I was, trying to point out earlier. It's within ourselves, so it's to look within and know thyself, mankind.
Can I make one note on the hierarchy of needs? It is based on he developed it based on already healthy individuals. So he took the most successful individuals and wanted to know what made them successful, like athletes and successful business people, and he discovered that they fulfilled these needs, and then they reached their pinnacle, that pinnacle kind of point. So I just wanted to kind of add that if it's kind of you're going through stuff, and kind of life has just kind of taken hold of that achievement process, that's not going to work.
That's interesting that you point that out. Okay, so I have also heard like some criticism about the hierarchy of needs in terms of that we often are like in real life, it wouldn't really always fit in because many of us we would be willing to sacrifice some of the basic needs in order to achieve something higher up. So we would like take some risk or like risk some safety, for instance, in order to reach some needs that are actually higher up in the pyramid. So I found that very interesting as a pertaining to.
Yeah, I think there's actually like if you were looking at a toroidal structure, the hierarchy of needs is kind of like the bottom cone going up to that center, like energy, like transition point, which is like a whole, like transitioning into a whole different world. So there's like still yet a lot to be discovered, and that's really where that energy point is, where you have like unlimited energy, unlimited potential, unlimited willpower, unlimited imagination, creativity, love, everything. So what we think we know and what's possible is way out there, but that's really through raising our consciousness, and instead of being in a mode of fear and apathy and guilt and shame and all these things that perpetuated by society, we could be far on the other side, in joy and love and all the higher consciousness existence.
That reminds me. That reminds me. Just if you were ending on that, I'll continue after you.
Sure, go.
Oh, okay, thanks. I hope I didn't interrupt you. It's really hard to kind of judge when the timings are. I don't know if you guys feel the same. It's it's a very synthetic conversation that we try really hard to pretend to work well. I think we do good.
It works. We're just getting used to it, right? The back and forth is a skill. It's not innate.
We're also getting more attuned to each other's facial expressions. Like we know when someone wants to say something and when they're just like, oh, I'm chilling.
Yeah. So I'll just go back to what Dennis was saying about with life, just being a parent and being having his own business and everything. How he finds that moment for himself in amongst that joy that and it's the idea that like the lifestyle in Brazil and all that lusciousness and everything, that's a great thing. Like I have moments where I'm just like, I could just go to a resort and just kind of I don't have to cook, I don't have to clean, it's done for me, and that feels really lovely. But I don't think of those things in those moments. I think of, okay, gee, if I'm cleaning these dishes, you know what, I really feel like baking some cupcakes for my kids. And that kind of gives me like this spark of joy that, okay, I can kind of make a memory with them, even though it's just going to mess the kitchen up all over again.
The question then is sorry, go ahead.
No, go. I finished. I totally finished.
Because it said joy, so I was like, is there, is the joy, is that dependent on any, on the resort, on the beach, on, the children not being there, or on playing capoeira in Brazil, or is there like a joy that is, that always has been there, always is there, and always will be there, regardless of what, regardless of the outside? Is there, like,
Yes.
of that fountain of joy, like within you, that you can tap in, and that in every moment of your life, even if it's the worst one, is that a possibility? And that's, I think that's a good question to ask. And then maybe, the all the chaos and the stress and the noise and everything around you, maybe that's just another, wow, another test of life, another exam, another challenge, to challenge you to see if you can hold that connection to that fountain within, even in those moments. And then, like, if you can hold it in those moments, and if you don't make your inner joy dependent on anybody else, if you don't give the power away to hold that connection to any circumstances, to any other person or so, then that's really taking self-responsibility, the ability to respond to any circumstances which lies
Mm.
within yourself, and which gives you that connection, to the source, to your true self at every moment.
Thanks, Dennis. I really liked that. That was really well said.
It's the
Fountain of joy.
dojo.
I love it.
Yeah, it's our dojo where we actually hone the skills that we learn. When we're together, we're learning all these skills, and then we go out in the real world and we have to chop wood and carry water, and that's the dojo.
So, Mike, I found that, or I found a bit of evidence in The Body Keeps the Score and pulled it up about how like misattunement can cause, or just in general neglect can cause a lot of these dissociative traits, and it's like a baseline for growing up. I'll read it real fast. It says Carlin's research showed that disassociation is learned early. Later abuse or other traumas did not account for dissociative symptoms in young adults. Abuse and trauma accounted for many other problems, but not for chronic disassociation or aggression against the self. The critical underlying issue was that these patients didn't know how to feel safe. Lack of safety within the early caregiving relationship led to an impaired sense of inner reality, excessive clinging, and self damaging behavior. Poverty, single parenthood, or maternal psychiatric symptoms did not predict these symptoms. And it goes on to say that it's not that like child abuse is irrelevant, but in the beginning, one of the ladies who did one of these studies said that she found a striking and unexpected relationship between maternal disengagement and misattunement during the first 2 years of life and dissociative symptoms in early adulthood. So it is a fundamental, like we're missing something in the fundamental stages that is cutting people off from the ability to continue these practices and actually get better and help themselves.
Yeah, and that leads to all kinds of problems that effectively the economic system that we have today, that the corporate system that is essentially preying on people that are wounded and don't know how to correct the problem, so they're developing addictions. They're trying to find positive ways to essentially just comfort themselves. And so you got alcoholism, you got you got addictions, you got overeating, you got all these different things that are going on, and it's really all back to this stuff. It's crazy how much they're really trying to hide this from people.
That's why I did attachment parenting with all of my kids. And attachment parenting is where the infant is with you on like a carrier, co-sleeps beside you, is attached to you 24/7 for the first 6 months. And that includes eating, doing laundry, showering, bathing with them, so that they and it's to the idea is that they're still just because they're born, it doesn't mean they're instantly disconnected from that connection they had when they're inside the womb. And so it's a progressive kind of letting go for the infant. And it usually naturally happens when they start being able to crawl. They start kind of distancing themselves from the primary caregiver. And so they'll crawl for a bit and then turn around and kind of look back and, okay, yeah, that's far enough. And then they'll race back and have that attachment again. And yeah, that kind of goes on for about 2 years, probably longer.
There was an article, actually, maybe it was an article, maybe it was in The Body Keeps a Score. I can't remember at this point, where it described the child walking away at a playground. And if someone got mom's attention and they realized that they were not being paid attention to, their fear sense kicks in and they're like, no, I have to go to mom. I have to make sure that she knows I'm here, because it's like a safety mechanism. They have to know that not only are you paying attention to them, but you're there to protect them. And if your attention wavers, they're like, no, that's mine. I need that. Give it back.
I really like
so
that.
You're
I
talking
think
about every phone call for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
any
was just
phone
gonna say
call
that,
and
the cell phones.
they'll know.
My best friend, it happens all the time. We have to schedule our phone calls whenever her daughter's sleeping, because the moment she hears her mom talking on the phone, she drops everything and runs to her and is like, put it down. She's
Yeah,
two.
that's in the book. I remember that part.
I really like that idea of carrying a baby next to you. I think that's a more natural approach than letting them cry themselves to sleep, you know? And also,
don't get me wrong, it was very exhausting and tiring. So I did also
Absolutely.
feeding on demand. So I didn't have a schedule. They kind of, if they were hungry or they were frightened or upset or needed soothing, it'd be just straight on the boob. And it was, I find that my kids are, I don't know, they kind of, they have kind of some I don't know, backbone, something to them.
strength.
Yeah, they bounce back quite easily.
And I would say, I would suspect that a child that had this kind of bonding in the first 6 months would then not be afraid to go to sleep by themselves when they were 2 years old, and not come up with as many. No, that's not true. They still come up with all these fantasies, like with like monsters under the bed and all that.
Yeah, it happens. They start when they start cognitively like developing at that age. They also start getting nightmares. They kind of and it's usually about 6 or 7 when they start going from little child to big child. And so their brains get bigger, their bodies get bigger, their bones get stronger. I think my daughter realized, my oldest, when she was about 10, she used to hand toys to me to open because I had to like package on package on package trying to open them. And she opened up her Christmas present, got the toy, and she's just like, oh, that's cool, and like ripped it open. She's like, Mom, why am I strong? How did I open that? And I had to explain that her bones are stronger because she's not a little child anymore. Yeah, I don't know how we got
That's
to that
cool.
conversation.
Parenting.
There's 2 resources that came to my mind. One of them points out really the contrary of what you're just describing. I think it's a tough read too. It's called The Origins of War in Child Abuse. If not close, I don't remember the author exactly, but I think there's even like an online version, like a audiobook version, which describes in much detail like how the difference from back then to today in child rearing practices and techniques really impact us not only as individuals but also as a society, and how certain practices in the past of not bonding with your children result in many like mental emotional distortions that later lead to even as war, as that Reed suggests. And Wilhelm Reich also did some amazing work on early childhood development and on birth. I guess today we will call it natural birthing, and so that's some really interesting stuff that he came up with as well.
That's right.
That's awesome. So
well, let me ask everybody. This whole week, I think we've had a lot of different discussions about different things and the approach to trying to get at a very big topic. Is there anything in particular you took away from this week that you'd like to either expound on, or an area that we didn't touch on, because this thing we could go on for months talking about this particular topic. But let's make sure we hit all the high points, I guess. So does anybody have anything along those lines, or anything stick out for them?
Well, for me, just generally, like I'm really taking away, all of you guys' experiences and skills, and like I can see how I in my daily practice can really incorporate, what we have been discussing, and how I can, working with clients, that I may have in the future, how I can even structure that holistic approach more, incorporating that whole idea and bring it to awareness of having baggage, of carrying around luggage, and then kind of like be more concise in identifying where the he or she may feel that they have more luggage. Some people may come with me with, okay, like, I'm not content with my physical self, and other may bring more like an emotional luggage to the table. So it's then really for me to to be able to more clearly identify and also give them resources, and be helpful on different levels, like on a physical level, on an emotional level, on a mental level, even on a spiritual level, to help them to gain a perspective and a look at their own situations, and give them like hands-on tools that they can then use to, if they decide and if they want to drop the luggage, or hand it to somebody who can help them to deal with it.
Yeah, for myself, I find that following this course and following like the Raising Excellence episodes, right? Just for me, practicing, doing all the exercises, I'm finding a lot of questions for myself. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing it like that? What do I have to gain from this particular activity? And, even if it doesn't change how I act, it puts into question my actions, and then I can examine them with more awareness, as opposed to just following automatically into my habits, what I would be doing normally. I think in a year we should do this again, so we can have a deeper understanding into our own psyche. Like start over, like next January, start over from the beginning of Tim's course and go through all the episodes again.
That'd be
Have
cool.
have you, or have any of you like found any luggage that you were not aware of before we started this week through this process?
I wouldn't say like through this process, not that the process hasn't done anything, but it's just kind of enlightened some things that I've already known about myself.
And have you found any tools or any or a perspective that might, like you said, might shed like a different light, or give you like a different approach to something that was there before?
I'm glad you asked, because that is exactly what I was going to talk about. I ended up writing about 5, and now that I'm looking at them, I realize that one of them encompasses all the other 4. So what I wrote was decluttering your mind, body, spirit, and your house, and your relationships, and your work, and everything else.
Just general Marie Kondo, the whole lot.
Declutter. Like, start with your room.
Have you
You hear
ever
that,
seen
Jackson?
those Marie
Start with
Kondo
your room.
videos? You should watch them.
No, I haven't.
Oh, you'd love it, I think.
I'm going to sound like Jordan Peterson. Clean your room.
Clean your room.
I'm saying that to my nephew. Clean your room. Your mom will thank you.
But it's not even that. It's not even like finding new things, because of course, like at my age, I would hope that, and especially like being into psychology and deep analysis and all of that, I would hope that I have at least looked into the dark corners of my personality at least once, and either accepted what I found there or put it aside to look at later or something, right? But it gives me an invitation to take a look, to like, clean out the cobwebs one more time and look into those dark crevices and see what's there. And maybe some things I'll still like, I'm not looking in that box, but maybe later I will, because I remember now that it's there.
That's exactly what happened to me. I started going through my house and literally decluttering stuff, and I was like, why am I attached to this? And then it would go into like, the biggest one was when I realized that I have a thing for boxes. And you know why? Because you can put more stuff in those boxes.
I have
I
a
was
thing
like,
for
oh,
boxes because it's all super neat and organized. If you put boxes like in a drawer,
hmm
you can
you can
ultra
keep
organize.
more
Okay,
stuff.
I'm so jealous of you guys. I can't do organizing. My organizing is, uh, yeah, I have baskets. I don't really have boxes.
I like baskets
I've got
too.
like, mm.
I have children, so all of those things wouldn't even make a difference.
Yes.
That was
Thank
great.
you.
That was great.
Thank you.
Well,
Doesn't matter how many bags.
answering your question, Dennis, I definitely feel like I've been, one of the things I feel very strongly about is that, the mind, or whatever you want to call the mind, is really the main determinant of our whole existence, and our psyche, or whatever you want to call it. And in really being able to read the body keeps the score really kind of reiterates that to a whole new level, with a whole bunch of evidence to back up a great deal of that, of what I thought to be true, is that really our mindset, and our attitude, and all the things that we contribute to our mind are really essentially the most important things. So, whether it's our health, or the diseases, or kind of the behavior that we're encountering in ourselves, or even our interactions with other people, a lot of that has to do with, the kind of mindset that we have, and the preparation that we've been given based on our own experiences through our own life. And, I think a lot of the things that are being hidden by society, and the way that we're practicing society out in the world, is really damaging, in really burying a lot of this information, so that people are not aware that, like things like child abuse, incest, and rape, and violence are affecting people in ways in which they don't realize how that outcome. And we really need to train ourselves and train each other to really be able to see this in people, because if we're smart, and if we understand this information, we can see this stuff,
It
and
doesn't
then
even
we can
go.
help each other.
It doesn't even go as deep as incest and rape and all that. It could be as simple as having the wrong TV programs on while the child is in that first 4 years. Because that was something that came up for me, for example, in Vipassana. A lot of the inappropriate, like World War II programming that I experienced as a very small child, basically like poured out of my heart during this 10-day meditation. So it must have affected me in a very, very deep way when I was 3 and 4 years old, for it to all be sitting right there, and just like 3 silent days and boom.
I think a
Yeah.
really good practice for our younger viewers, or maybe someone who is not as deeply traumatized, uh, would be if you pay attention to your emotions. That is, make a space to have your emotion, feel it, name it, label it, do something, just acknowledge it. And I think that's a really good practice for anyone just starting out. At the very least, before you even get to put your baggage down, you have to acknowledge that you have it, and your emotions will tell you a lot of things.
So what I'm
Well,
hearing from you, especially from what you said, Mike, a while ago, is that it is not only the experiences, the life experiences that one may have, but it's also the way how you perceive them, and especially how you process them with your mind, that will make up your reality in fact, right? So like I met a lady, for example, who was abused and who was actually raped when she was very young, and she was like, "Pff, whatever, like, and like I felt it was not just like pushing it away or so, but she seemed to have dealt with it like from very early on, and she could talk freely about it, and for her it was not an issue at all. At the same time, like I have encountered people who have who arguably would have suffered less, but to whom it was much more luggage and much more weight that weighed them down, like for even years after. And so it seems that the perception of a situation and the way how we deal or how we don't deal with it really determines the outcome. It determines how we perceive reality and how we our daily life really.
what I liked
think,
about what Dennis
go ahead.
What I liked about what Dennis just said is that it's the difference. One person, someone might it might be okay. Yeah, that happened, and they had, they were strong, and or they were able to handle it in a way that was okay with them. But for other people, it was too real, and that's not for us to judge. It's that's their pain. It's their process of how they're dealing with it. That's really that's a unique thing. Not everybody deals with the same thing the same way.
I feel
I
like
think
Please continue, Michael.
there's also the, having trusting relationships where we can, like we can share this information and we can get perspectives and talk about these things and have circumstances where we're not judged, but we just are trying to find our own truth, and being able to discuss that with somebody that's willing to listen and actually cares about us is another thing that allows us to kind of uncoil this thing, but also get a different perspective. And when you have a family or a group of people around us that we can do that with, that gives us a huge advantage to taking care of these type of problems. And we, knowing that we've got to function as those people as well. We've got to be the rock for other people to, to let them anchor upon when they're in unsettled seas.
We got to be rocks for each other. Like when you're having issues, I can be your rock and vice versa. Like it doesn't have to be one directional. I wanted to read you guys a quote. This is Mark Twain. He says, "Nothing that grieves us can be called little. By the eternal laws of proportion, a child's loss of a doll and a king's loss of a crown are events of the same size."
that is
Yeah,
beautiful.
Mark
yeah,
Twain.
that's what I was trying to say, and you said it very lovely. With a lovely author.
I didn't say it. He said it.
Yeah.
He's a smart dude, that one.
Mm. He knows. He knows.
Yep.
Well, I think these are some of the things that may have been apparent to people that had a lot more time, that didn't have the distractions of television and all the entertainment and those type of things. And these are the kinds of things that modern society and modern people, when you say, what have you lost by adopting this technology? They go, I haven't lost anything. Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe
Well,
a
and
connection
also all
to
the
yourself,
supportive
right?
circles, the supportive circle of men, the supportive circle of women, we lost that because now we're all pitted against each other and wanting to compete for who's got the biggest cleavage and who's got the whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's not real.
What are you saying?
Look at Mike, he's embarrassed.
He went red. He's blushing.
We're going there.
Hi, come flattered.
We're so bad.
Sorry, I had to. Yeah, that was bad.
That was a great interjection.
Oh, that was too funny. Thank you. So I kind of failed you guys because we were supposed to do the fallacy, but I'm going to do it live because that's what we do. So I have the picture.
Yeah, well, I was actually just going to mention it.
Yeah, I have the picture, but I have to do something somehow to add it. So the screen is black for our viewers at this moment, and I'm sorry about that. But it won't be black for very long because you can still hear me, and I'm getting the picture.
Did I put it did it post up on Facebook?
I'm not sure.
I put it as automated. So it
Yeah,
should have
but-
scheduled today.
Oh, cool. Well,
I saw a notification for it on my phone.
If it worked, yay, I figured out something else with Facebook.
Yeah, except for it's not working. I'm sorry, you
Ah.
guys. No, I'll just
Well,
cancel.
we're going to give it like
this.
about 20 more seconds. And if you can't get it working, we're just going to have
Oops.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep going.
My notifications.
go.
And see.
No, man. I don't know. It's not
Oh,
working.
hasty,
We'll have to
hasty
do it.
generalization.
Why don't we just read it and we'll post it on Raising Excellence as an image, and it will be that, and it'll be our image. Because I tried and it's not working.
I have it
Okay,
pulled
so
up,
what
I
is
think.
Can you do a screen share?
Can you do a screen share?
Ooh. Let me try this.
Doing it live.
I've never tried
we do
screen
have
share.
we do have a hard cutoff.
We've lost all our viewers
See,
because
this
we're
is-
messing around.
No, but this is great because they
Yeah.
can kind of see the ins and outs of how our team works.
That's right. That's right.
So that's
Let's see
good.
it.
I don't know how to
Yeah.
do screen share.
And we have a
Oh,
perfect plan B for this
there's a share
situation.
button at the bottom of your screen with the green arrow pointing out.
Ah,
We should have somebody doing
Yeah, I got
cartwheels
it.
right now, jumping all over, and just. Some
Well, what's our physical guy doing? He's just sitting there. Woohoo!
working?
There we
There we go.
go.
Did it
Okay.
work?
Ah, it worked! Yay!
So this is the logical fallacy for today. Who wants to talk to it? D. No?
Oh, what am I doing?
Talking about this
What am I
picture
doing?
and what do we see? Hasty generalization.
It's called hasty generalizations.
So hang
oh
on.
my gosh, where was I going?
Oh, go closer to your mic. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll move. Where was I going with this? You said just pick something, and I went for hasty
Yeah.
generalizations.
So
I
logical
figured that would be
fallacy.
a good one.
So logical fallacies are the tools that we use for communication that basically get us out of trouble without providing any real content. So these are little tricks that we play on each other in order to be right, but without looking at the whole picture, right? Without being honestly right, just like, oh, get off my case, whatever. So this one, we're going to be doing one of these a week. So this one is hasty generalization. And in this example, we see these two squirrels, and one of them believes that all food is circle-shaped because he's only ever seen circle-shaped food, right? So in an argument, if it was two people talking to each other, because the one person doesn't have the experience that the other person has, they claim that they have the truth, and the other person does not have the truth. But in reality, it's just their experience that's different.
a lot of times I see this in like arguments where one person is just unable to explain why they don't have energy to do something, and then the other partner just assumes because they can't explain that they're lazy, or even they themselves assume that they're lazy because they don't have an explanation for it.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Dennis? I would see it as different perspectives. I would see it as different perspectives.
Yeah,
I like how Mike talks about it. He says it's different expectations. That's how he talks about it. Am I right?
Mike's
I don't know if I'm right.
I think it could be all those things, but I would say in regard to logical fallacies, most people witness them day in, day out. If they're listening to the news, if they're watching TV, if they're watching movies, logical fallacies are all over the place. In a typical commercial, I think you find 4 or 5 in a matter of 30 seconds. So,
and that's why we decided to cover them in Raising Excellence. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, I think that's all I've got. Somebody else has got something.
Did you have anything to add, Dennis?
So, are you saying that each one of those squares basically has its own subjective truth, which is really based on the view, based on the life experiences, based on the baggage that it would have been carrying around and building up during his lifetime? So the little square on the left as well as the little square on the right would have developed their very own perspective and perception of their surrounding, and in a way, in that example, is stuck in the in that small perspective, and not yet open, or has not learned that there might be something beyond what they are seeing. So they have not realized yet that there's something greater than the little view, the little perspective that they have adopted so far. yet the potential is there to do that, right?
Absolutely.
I think the key is understanding that other people can see things differently than you. And it sounds like such a simple concept because you're like, of course, people see things differently than me, but you don't realize that when it looks so obvious to you, it may not be so obvious to the other person.
Absolutely.
We'll be
Like a
covering one of
6-year-old might
these
not
every
see.
week from now on. Every Thursday, toward the end of the show, we'll be talking about one logical fallacy. And that way, it'll allow you guys to identify them when you come across them, or maybe even think about them as you're having arguments with your spouses or your children or whatever.
All right, so for next week, we're going to be talking about the next step in Tim Flynn's Foundations of Self-Discovery, vision. And does anybody have anything to say about that?
We'll do a vision process. It'll be awesome.
And Agnieszka, you've got another facial reading this coming weekend?
Yeah, there's a face reading coming up this weekend with Timothy.
All righty. Well, with that said, unless anybody's got anything else, I am going to say that is the conclusion to another week and another topic. I really enjoyed the time. I hope you all did as well. Thank you for your time and attention. We will see you on Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern.
3 times a week, 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. See you then.
Bye.
Thanks for watching, everybody.